Are you tired of paying electricity? You would like to have your house on solar? It's very, very easy and without complications. But I know some people say, oh, you need to have so many panels, you need to have 24 volt, 48 volt, etc. People getting a bit lost. Well, stay tuned. I will show it to you in a very simple way. To get a solar system, first thing you need to know, that's the first thing you need to start with, is what voltage you want to start with. There are three systems on the market: 12, 24 volt, 48 volts. Okay, so about 15, 20 years ago, it was very common for houses to have a 12 volt solar system. Now it's not very much used. It's mainly used 24, 48 volts. 12 volts, they're sold, but they're mainly used for caravan, campers, stuff like that. So what's the difference between 24 and 48 volts? Well, 48 volts, you've got much more power. But anyway, I'll come into this a bit later. So you know, my system, my house run on 24 volts and it's perfect. I've got no shortage of electricity whatsoever. So I would recommend you to start with, to go on 24 volts, so like that the cost is lower, and later if you want to upgrade you can go for 48. Okay, so now let's go for the stuff we will need. If, like me, you want your independence, like I've got for the past 15 years nearly, you will need four things for your house to run. You will need solar panels, you will need batteries, you will need an inverter, and you will need a solar charger. Let me now go into details and explain to you how they work and how many you need. Let's now talk about the solar panels. So which one to choose? I've got one here. I've got bigger ones behind. On the market there's even bigger ones, so which one we have to go for? There's so much to choose from. Well, listen, that's simpler than you think. First, you will need to go on the level of 1800 watt minimum. Okay, if you've got that on solar panels, then you're good to go. Okay, you should have enough power for your house. I used to run my house on less than that. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if your panels are 200 watt, 300 watt, 500 watt. Okay, as long as you got a minimum of 1800, you should be good to go. Okay, or more, of course. Let me show you now at the back of the solar panels what you have to look for. I hope that's clear enough. Okay, so that's what you got at the back of the panels, and you see here power. It's written 450 watts. Okay, so if I buy two panels, that will be 900 watt. If I buy four panels, that will be 1800 watt. Okay, so if you've got, as I say, a total of 1800 watt, you are good to go. Okay, or more. So as I say, it doesn't matter if you got solar panels more powerful than that or less powerful. It doesn't matter as long as you reach that energy level that I've told you about. Now let's talk about batteries. Batteries are obviously very important because that's what store the energy that we will use later to run the house. So as we see at the back, we've got very large batteries. They are 2 volt each. We've got smaller ones that are here, 2 volts as well. Here there's some car batteries. I've got here truck batteries, etc. So there's a very large choice, and I will explain to you a bit better how to choose them. Okay, so the batteries, how to choose them, which one to take. Well, we're gonna go back to that first part of the video where I told you you need to know first which system you want, if it's a 12, 24 or 48 volts. Okay, because you cannot have a 12 volt battery running a 24 volt system. It's just not possible. The batteries must match the system you have. Okay, so now imagine a bit the solar panel and the batteries a bit like a car. Okay, you've got your car and you want to drive a long distance. So obviously if you've got a big engine, well, you'll go faster. So that will be your solar panels. Okay, you got a lot of power, but then obviously to reach wherever you want to go, if you've got a small tank, you won't go very far. Either if you got a large tank, you will go very far before it needs refueling. Well, a solar system, it's a bit the same, okay? Now you've got your panels, now you need the batteries that go with it. So which one to take? Car batteries, that will be okay if you want to power, for instance, your garage, a few lights. That will be fine. Okay, these are not batteries that are made to last. Okay, they will discharge very quickly. So now I will advise you better for Fenwich batteries, you know, those elevators. Okay, very often you can find them secondhand. You can get them quite cheap. Okay, the batteries that you've seen inside are solar batteries. The one that are against the wall, they're about 400 euro one. Okay, so because they're 2 volt each one, obviously I need 12 batteries to have a 24 volt system, and obviously now you multiply 12 by 400, you've got the price. Okay, that's why I told you it's expensive. The batteries are expensive, but as I say, you don't have to go for those batteries. You can take the ones that are in front. They're about half the capacity of the other batteries. You can go for the Fenwick batteries that are cheaper as well. And don't worry as well, if one day you got one battery that failed, you can change that battery. You don't have to change the whole thing. Okay, so that's quite important too. Okay, so the price of batteries, etc., I can't really tell you because it depends if you go for 12, 24 or 48. Obviously the price will be tripled. Okay, and it depends the capacity of the batteries as well. So it's for you to have a look. What you can do, you can take, for instance, 400 amp batteries to start with, see how your system goes, and then if you see it's not enough, but you buy more batteries, you add more batteries. As I say, a solar system are like Lego. You can add as much as you want and it'll be just fine. Other thing that you will need are these. These are solar chargers. What's the use of it? Well, this makes sure that your batteries are not overcharged. If you don't have this, for instance, and you connect your panels directly on your batteries, if your batteries are fully charged and they continue charging, eventually they will explode. Okay, so this will make sure it regulates the charge and it will manage the charge on your batteries. It will maintain them as well. So for instance, we see the batteries here, this one here is not charging, it's at 0. Okay, but this one is still charging at 9 amp, a bit more. Okay, so basically this one I've decided, okay, I stop working, I stop sending the charge to the battery, and this one continue charging. Okay, because they're pretty full, the battery. Yeah? So that's what you will need. Before we had different type of solar charger. The newest one were the MPPT. So I believe that now all of them that are being sold now are MPPT. So that's what you should go for. Now, however, which one? Because there are different ones. You see here, there are 50 amp, but there are some of 10 amp, 20, 30, 50, 80. Okay, there's different load. So which one to choose for? Well, it depends of your solar panels. So for instance, if we go that we've got 1800 watt of panels. So to know how much you will need, you will divide 1800 watt by the system that you have. That's why I told you it's important to know which one you go for. So let's say we go for 24 volts. So you divide 1800 divided by 24 volts, and it will give you 75 amps. So this one, being a 50 amp, is not sufficient to run those 4 panels that I've got. So here what I've got 2 panels connected on that solar charger and 2 other panels connected on this one. Okay, so like that it's fine, because if I divide for instance 900 watt, which are 2 panels, okay, 900 watt divided by 24, I've got 37.5, and it's way below the 50 amp, so I know it's good. Okay, so that's the way you select your inverter, your solar charger. So it can be an 80 amp, etc. Okay, so for instance, if you buy an 80 amp solar charger and you want to connect 1800 watt of panels? Yes, you can, because for 1800 watt you will need 75 amp, so 80 amp will be okay. Finally, we go for the inverter. So what does that do? This will convert your electricity, which may be 12, 24 or 48, into normal electricity of 230 volt in your house. Okay? Bear in mind, this is why I told you before, you need to select first what you want, if you want to go for 12, 24 or 48. Because once you have this, it's not compatible for any other source of power. So for instance, if you buy one like that for a 12 volt system, if later you want to upgrade for 24, you will have to change this. Okay, same thing if you got 24 and later you want to change for 48, you will have to change this. Okay, it will need to be adapted for your solar system. Okay. So now most of them are sold pure sine wave, which is great because you can connect any electronic system on it, maybe mobile computers, etc. Which in the past we had we had modified wave where you could not connect electronic system on it. So now on the new system you can, and there's no problem. So the difference between a 12 volt, for instance, if you need to have a 12 volt inverter, usually you can use at one time about 800, 900 watt at one time. So let's say for instance you want to use a drill that consumes 1000 watt, well this one will automatically switch off. Okay. 24 volts, that will give you a power of about 3000, 3200 watt, more or less. Okay. So now if you want to use a drill, no problem. If you want to use a washing machine, whatever, you can. Okay. Now, however, be careful, you are limited to those 3000 or 3200 watt depending on your system. So now if you connect at the same time the washing machine, the water pump, the swimming pool, etc., obviously you will go well above the 3000 watt and it will cut. Okay, not that you don't have enough power on your batteries, but it will cut because you will go above the threshold. Okay. So now that's what I'm telling you about the 48 volts. 48 volts, usually you go between 8000 and 9000 watt at one time. So that's what I'm telling you, it's much more power, but obviously it's much more expensive. Okay. So at that point, yes, you will be able to have the washing machine, the swimming pool, the water pump, the microwave at the same time without any problem. It won't cut. Okay, but the price is obviously different. Okay, so that will be the difference between the inverter. I hope all that explanation have cleared some stuff, but if you follow that guideline I've given you, you should be pretty much good to go. So now obviously there are some people that will tell you you need to calculate your electricity consumption, blah 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 blah. Let's face it, it's very difficult. Why? Because obviously if you fit a solar system, you won't be living in an apartment. Let's face it, you will have a house. And when you have a house, you never have the same consumption. Obviously you will have the normal thing like the fridge, maybe the microwave, washing machine, stuff like that. Okay, but there are always some time where you use different kind of power. For instance, you want to charge your car battery, maybe you want to do some welding, maybe you want to use an angle grinder, etc. And this will consume a lot of power. Okay, so as I said, just forget a bit about all this, okay, what those people tell you, because you will never have the same consumption as well. If you have a woman that lives with you, you know, she tends to open the tap quite often for the water to come through, and if you, like me, use a water pump, obviously that consume a lot, that if you're a man, usually we don't use that water that often, etc. So it can go very different between one person to another. So don't go very much for that guideline, just go for what I've told you. Okay, like that you will be okay. And as I say, you will adapt with the time. You will know if you need more solar panels, you will need if you know more batteries, etc. Because you can add them on later in a future date. Okay, there's absolutely no problem on this. Okay, the last thing I want to tell you is that obviously having a solar system, we must run our house using the sun. Okay, that's very important. So people, for instance, that come from the city, they tend, for instance, let's say they come late at night from work, and what they will do, they will put a washing machine on, so like that the following morning when they wake up, they just dry it and that's done. Here on the solar system, you can't do that. We work with the sun. Okay, so for instance, the sun comes up at 8 o'clock in the morning, for instance. Okay, it starts rising, it starts charging the batteries. 10:30 more or less, that's when we will place a washing machine. Okay, because they will be nicely charged, the batteries, and by the time the washing machine is finished, the solar system has plenty of time to recharge again. Okay, so usually when you have a solar system, you tend to use what consume a lot during the day, never at night. Okay, so it's a different way of living, but when you're used to it, you know it, and there's no problem. It's a bit like when your electricity company tells you that if you use electricity during the day, it will be more costly than at night. Then very quickly you will start changing and do the stuff at night because it will be cheaper to run. It's a bit the same thing, except that here we with the sun and we use the batteries. Okay, so anyway, I hope this has been cleared. I hope that you have liked the video, and we'll see each other in the next one. Take care of yourself. Ciao.